from surviving to living again. There are moments in coaching when someone sits across from you, carrying so much that you wonder how they've managed to keep standing. When this client and I first began working together, she wasn't facing a single challenge. She was living beneath the weight of many, the end of a marriage that had lasted more than 20 years, multiple deaths in the family, a battle with cancer, the grief of her only child moving away, the uncertainty of a career that seemed to shift beneath her feet with every organizational restructuring. None of these experiences existed in isolation. Together, they had shaped the way she moved through the world. If you had met her during that season, you probably wouldn't have known. She was compassionate, dependable, and accomplished, the kind of person everyone else leaned on. She smiled easily, showed up faithfully, and continued caring for those around her. Yet beneath that strength was someone who had quietly become exhausted. Her nervous system had spent years adapting to crisis after crisis until survival had become her default way of living. Like so many people I work with, she wasn't weak. She was remarkably resilient. Ironically, that resilience had become part of the problem. For years, she responded to stress the only way she knew how. She worked harder. She stayed busy. She took care of everyone else. She pushed through fatigue. She ignored the signals her body was sending because there was always another responsibility waiting for her attention. Eventually, the very strategy that had helped her survive was preventing her from truly living. One of the first perspectives we explored together had nothing to do with fixing her. Instead, I invited her to see herself differently. I often tell clients that we are each an environment. Our thoughts, beliefs, habits, relationships, sleep, movement, nutrition, spiritual practices, boundaries, and the stories we repeatedly tell ourselves create the conditions in which either suffering or flourishing become more likely. Rather than asking, "What's wrong with me?" we began asking a different question. What is my life cultivating? That subtle shift changes everything. Instead of seeing anxiety as an enemy, we became curious about what was feeding it. Rather than judging emotional overwhelm, we explored what her nervous system had been carrying for years without adequate recovery. Instead of trying to force positive thinking, we focused on becoming better stewards of her inner world. This is one of the reasons I don't believe lasting transformation comes from more willpower. Most people already know what they should do. They know they should sleep more, move their bodies, eat nourishing food, meditate, establish boundaries, and spend less time worrying. Information is rarely what's missing. The real work is creating conditions where those healthy choices become accessible, especially when life becomes difficult. Together, we began building what I often describe as a personal toolbox. Some tools were preventative: daily meditation, walking, time in prayer, reading scripture, small practices that nourished her before life demanded something from her. I think of these as vitamins for the nervous system. Other tools were reserved for moments when fear inevitably surfaced: a difficult medical appointment, another organizational change at work, memories from her previous marriage. Instead of pretending those moments wouldn't happen, we designed ways to meet them differently. Slowing her breath, stepping away from her desk, going for a walk before reacting, calling someone she trusted, returning to practices that reminded her who she wanted to be instead of allowing fear to determine her next choice. One of the most meaningful shifts I witnessed wasn't in what she did, it was in how she related to herself. For years, she measured her worth by how much she could accomplish and how much she could carry for other people. Slowly, she began recognizing that caring for herself wasn't selfish. It was stewardship. She learned that boundaries weren't walls designed to keep people out. They were healthy expressions of self-respect. She discovered that rest wasn't laziness. It was preparation. She stopped treating every setback as evidence that she was failing and began seeing them as invitations to become curious. That curiosity transformed the conversation. Instead of asking, "Why do I keep doing this?" she began asking, "What is this pattern trying to teach me?" Those are very different questions. One produces shame, the other produces awareness. There were still difficult days. Healing is rarely linear. Health fears resurfaced. Work became overwhelming. Old relationship wounds were activated. None of that disappeared overnight. What changed was her ability to recover. She noticed what was happening inside her sooner. She reached for healthy tools before old habits gathered momentum. She trusted herself more. She became less interested in perfection and more committed to practicing awareness. To me, that's what authentic behavior change looks like. Not the absence of struggle, the presence of a growing capacity to meet struggle with wisdom instead of old conditioning. Perhaps my favorite part of this journey has nothing to do with coaching techniques. It has been watching someone remember that she already possessed an innate intelligence guiding her toward wholeness. As coaches, we sometimes receive too much credit. I don't believe my role is to fix people or provide answers they don't already have. My role is to create a space where they can hear themselves again, to ask questions that reconnect them with their own wisdom, to reflect back strengths that have become difficult for them to recognize, to trust that beneath the fear, the grief, and the conditioning, there is something fundamentally whole that has never been broken. She did the difficult work. She faced grief instead of outrunning it. She learned to listen to her body rather than override it. She practiced setting boundaries without apologizing for having needs. She chose courage long before she felt confident. She continued showing up, one small decision at a time. Today her life isn't perfect. Challenges still arise. Like all of us, she's still becoming. But she's no longer simply surviving. She's living with greater intention, greater peace, healthier boundaries, a deeper connection to her faith, a growing trust in herself, and an appreciation that even life's most painful seasons can become fertile ground for transformation when we're willing to meet them with awareness instead of resistance. I share this story because I suspect many people will recognize themselves in parts of it. Your circumstances may be completely different. You may not have experienced cancer, divorce, or career uncertainty, but perhaps you've spent years caring more than anyone realizes. Perhaps you've become so skilled at surviving that you've forgotten what it feels like to truly flourish. If that's you, I'd offer this thought. Transformation rarely begins by becoming someone new. It begins by remembering who you've been beneath the stress, the fear, and the survival strategies all along. Sometimes the greatest breakthrough isn't learning something new. It's creating enough space to hear the wisdom that has quietly been waiting within you all along.